Back now on Let It Rip, talking about the latest developments in the Israel-Hamas war and where things are headed into the new year. I'm joined now by familiar faces, Rabbi Asher Lopatin, the Jewish Community Relations Council, AJC Executive Director, also World Peace Association founder, Dr. Mahmoud Al-Hadidi, and Fox 2 anchor and attorney Charlie Langton back with us as well. And we thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. Charlie, always good to be with you. I wish we didn't have to sit here and talk about this horrific war that we're watching unfold 7,000 miles away. But here we are, months in, and Rabbi, the last time you were on the show, we didn't say anything about a prediction as to how this could end. Do you see an end, and how could it end in your mind?
I do see an end because I see the Jewish state, the state of Israel, and the Palestinians getting along. I think these are good people. These are people that can live together. They didn't have someone like Hamas terrorizing them, both sides, both the Palestinians and the Israelis. I think these are people that could love each other and live together. And I know I sound naive, and I know it's hard to imagine it now, but I do believe that just like 2 million Arabs live in Israel currently and are thriving. There are issues, but they're thriving in the state of Israel. I believe that everyone ultimately they'll work together, and it's going to be an amazing, amazing place. It's going to lead the world in innovation because Palestinian people are as innovative as the Jewish people. And so I am hopeful, but it's a really sad, sad situation.
It's a terrible situation in which we can't even bear to talk about the number because so many of them are innocent children and women and men who are 20,000 civilians killed in this terrible war just on the side of Palestine. Dr. Al-Hadidi, it seems as though often when you see these protests, it's like everybody's talking about one side, their side. When you look at this, you actually see eye to eye with the rabbi here when it comes to the atrocity of this war. Hamas is the one with their blood on their hands, yes?
Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's very painful to see after 76 days of war that we're still trying to point a finger with the number of atrocities and the murders being committed. Unfortunately, religion has been hijacked in this conflict. And it is so sad to see Prime Minister Netanyahu quoting the Torah with his wicked interpretation, labeling Palestinians and Arabs as Amalekites, or Amalek, justifying killing them, killing their children, women, and eradicating everybody.
Rabbi, that's wrong, is it not, for anybody to say that?
Exactly. It's wrong from a Jewish point of view, and it's wrong to demonize the Palestinians. It's Hamas that are terrorists that need to be fought. But even there, it's wrong to use those kind of biblical terms of Amalek. It's just wrong. And, many in our circles are not fans of Netanyahu. We want Hamas to be, taken away from the equation in Gaza, and that'll be better for Palestinians and Israelis. But no, sorry, I'm not a fan of Netanyahu at all.
Charlie, how do you see this conflict ending as you've been covering it from a local level, talking to Palestinians and Jewish Americans?
Well, it is complicated. I think I don't know where we're going to solve it today. It is interesting, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Hamas was a duly elected leader in Gaza. They had elections, and the people of Gaza voted in Hamas.
That was years ago.
But they're still in power today.
No re-election, unfortunately. And I started by saying the religion has been hijacked. Not when you see those protests in the streets supporting the Palestinian innocent children and civilians.
True.
They're not supporting Hamas. They are supporting life. They're supporting the innocent people's right to live.
Why is it so hard for people to separate this? And I have a hard time when we cover it, seeing people not able to separate when we're talking about a war against Hamas, yet the blood that's been shed here, in terms of numbers, the most number of people are innocent Palestinians who've died.
You're absolutely right. This desire by the Israeli government, supported by U.S. government, to eliminate Hamas was interpreted as a open check, open season, go kill Palestinians. And this is very shameful for the international community not to be able to hear the cries of the babies and children being killed. Day one, Rabbi, you and I have expressed our concern about October 7 and the atrocities committed. But then after that, the crimes, the number of dead people is astonishing, especially bombing hospitals, bombing bakeries, churches, mosques. Even lately, they desecrated a cemetery.
This is the
Israeli army, they actually went with tanks over a cemetery, which is very unusual for an army to do that. And
but is Hamas using people as human shields? I mean, Hamas is planting themselves in hospitals and schools in which they know apartment buildings in which innocent people are resting and sleeping. That in itself is just barbaric.
That's terrible. That's terrible to do. But unfortunately, that does not justify by choice. The only sin the Palestinian child or woman have committed is that they existed on that land beyond their control. They were born there. God created them there. They didn't choose to be there. They have the right, like every human being, to live with dignity, to live with hope, and to enjoy like everybody else. Not to be categorized as animals.
Do you think that that perhaps the national media in particular, the national narrative and dialogue, has gotten it wrong in terms of not memorializing correctly those who have died on the Palestinian side of this conflict?
Well, I think that, and that's what Dr. Al-Hadidi and I share very much, is concern for human beings, for every child, for every woman, for every innocent human being.
Israeli or Palestinian.
Yes, and it hurts. I think every Jew that I talk to, everyone that is pro-Israel, feels that horror. But the question is, you're fighting an enemy, Hamas, that is hiding behind these people, and how do you do it? And it's very painful, and Israel has to be very careful, and they are. But I certainly think that we have to always worry about every single human being. And I know lawyers who work in the Israeli army, anytime there is a bomb that is dropped, they have to get a certification that is okay, that it's proportional. But it's so painful, it's so terrible.
But if it is so disproportional to Palestinians, they're taking the brunt of the force of Israel. Should Israel then maybe back off a little bit?
No, I think the worst thing would be for Israel to enable Hamas to stay in control. And I really feel that will be 20,000 lives. Now, a lot of them are Hamas fighters, but innocent lives. God forbid that they should die in vain. This is a war against Hamas, and for the sake of the Palestinians.
That's where we disagree. We agree on a lot of things. We disagree here. The notion that we are fighting Hamas but killing innocent civilians is not acceptable.
So what's the solution, Dr. Al-Hadidi, in terms of taking care of this militant group called by the U.S. government a terrorist group, Hamas, getting rid of them? If this was ISIS, if this was Hezbollah, if this was anybody else, if it was anywhere else, how would you say it should be handled?
There are rules of war, there are rules of engagement, and there are also religious rules. You know, Rabbi Hillel have said that, interpretation of the Talmud, don't do unto others what you don't want done to you. Mm-hmm. So if Israel does not want their citizens to be treated in such a way, if there's a terrorist hiding amongst 1,000 Israeli civilians, then somebody should just come and kill everybody. Please allow me. Then if you don't want that scenario, and I don't want that, I think that's a very ugly injustice to kill so many civilians trying to go after a renegade or a criminal. Even if you label Hamas as criminals, that's not acceptable. We should abide by human rights and international law, and try to avoid utilizing those human shields.
Rabbi, but I'd like to ask a question. We only have so much time left. They've been accused of carpet bombing. They've been accused of essentially taking bombs and bombing apartments and killing so many thousands. How do you change that course and make it more effective?
And my understanding still is that Israel is doing whatever it possibly can to avoid as many casualties. And when you see that when America goes into Fallujah or other wars, it's a lot. The ratio of fighters killed, of terrorists killed to civilians is much higher than we're seeing in this war, actually. But I also think Israel has technology, and I've seen even on CNN that they are using, even with what they call dumb bombs, they're attaching technology to try to avoid. It's painful.
This is what
and that's
we disagree.
We disagree with the
This is where, Rabbi, this is where we disagree again, because they're using it as video games. We see the videos attacking a large tower with 1,000 people in, and the tower comes down with God knows how many people there.
We're tight on time. We're going to have time for final thoughts after the break when we come back, right after this. We're running out of time. Final thoughts, Dr. Al-Hadidi.
Thank you for hosting us today. What we need is an immediate ceasefire, an immediate end to this senseless war and targeting civilians. When it's being done as a video game and the next day they see the victims crying and shattered, that has to stop, and we have to look for tomorrow, how we're going to live tomorrow in peace. Peace is an essential part of our life, and we have to pursue that. We have to start now, and it starts by ceasing fire, stop the murders.
Thank you, Dr. Al-Hadidi. Final thoughts.
We have to see the hostages returned. We have to see the end of Hamas for the sake of not only Israel, but Palestinians. And I agree with Dr. Al-Hadidi. The day after is critical, and I hope Israel plays a critical role. Israel fought this battle. It's the right battle, but Israel should play a critical role in rebuilding Gaza, and finding that people protesting should think about what's good for Palestinians, not just hatred of Israel or of Jews.
It is good to see all of you in this season of so many people celebrating and reflecting in all religions. We wish nothing but the best for both groups and everybody else who's watching, wishing you peace this holy season. That does it for this edition of Let It Rip.